Hello, good evening, afternoon, or morning, whatever it is where you are. And thank you for tuning in to watch us on FreeThought Hour. It's a bit different because it's guestless. And Tersia, my co host, is going to tell us why. There was a lot of fishing and the hook slipped out. I don't know what happened. Tersia will tell you. How the devil are you, Tersia?
I am well as can be expected in glorious South African spring. It's Friday was hot. Today's been beautiful, and yeah, things are. We have electricity, so far so good.
Oh,
The
yeah.
Wi-Fi seems to be working. My son just walked in from since being away for a party that he obviously survived. The other child is safe. All my loved ones are safe. Some are in Rome.
Excellent.
Shout out to my brother Devan and his
Yes.
wife.
Okay.
They're in Rome. Bloody hell! Just flew to Rome for the weekend. But yes, I'm really well. You are wearing your poppy for
Yes.
remember. So today is actually the 11th
Armistice.
of November, Armistice Day.
Yeah.
Uh, what's the difference between Anzac? Was it called Anzac Day in the past, and now it's Armistice Day? Um, just
Um, Yeah, I'm not sure about Anzac Day. I think we'll have to do some research on that. It
I,
might it might be a different time of year
I,
because I think the Australian and New Zealand Army were more active in the Pacific War, whereas
okay.
the Armistice Day is based on the First World War, which was in Europe, and it's
Well,
it
well.
was set up it was set up because they the ceasefire was agreed and signed on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. And so from then on, we've commemorated it. So we have two
I've
things. We have
actually
our Christmas Day, which is the actual day when the 11th day. But then
yes.
because it doesn't normally arrive on a weekend, we have a Remembrance Day, which is always a Sunday, and that's tomorrow.
Okay. So I've actually been covering that history with the kids in my school or my little tutoring center. And
Mhm.
because of that, I've been doing some watching. These days, I don't spend as much time reading as I used to because
Mhm.
why read when you can just watch a very informative video? One of my favorite channels is History Hits, but I've been
Yeah.
watching quite a few documentaries about the First World War. So the topic really interests me. And yeah, it's something that I don't think we learn enough about because one of the documentaries that I watched was focused in particular on how we are to this very day in some regions of the world more than others, but to a great extent, the whole Palestine crisis was made in the time of the First World War. So
Mhm.
it's important, but you and I
Yeah,
are
it
busking
was
it
supposed to
tonight.
be. Sorry, I just want to say it was supposed to be the war to end all wars.
Yep.
Look what happened to that.
That kite didn't fly. So
Mm.
we are busking it tonight, which is
Yes.
something that
Mm.
you and I can do quite well. I don't know. I hope our audience enjoys our banter. And the reason the reason we're busking it is because I wasn't able to get hold of the guest that I promised. But then again, to 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 make things a little bit how extenuating circumstances are. I think it was only on Tuesday or Wednesday that you asked me whether I could organize somebody, and I did have somebody in mind, and I'm hoping that we will get her. She has, for all intents and purposes, confirmed that she will appear as a guest on our show. I have
Mm.
not been able to speak with her in person, but I have her phone number and we scheduled to have a phone call on Monday. And
Mm.
this person is a retired professor in journalism. So
Mhm.
she's in her late 60s. She calls herself a granny nanny. And the reason I've want her on her show is, want her on our show, sorry, is because she just published a book. in Afrikaans called Star Child, in which she tells the stories of different religions. So she, yes, and it's caused a hula balooba massive furor in the Afrikaans press. Most of it negative, because she proposes, number one, that religion doesn't belong in schools, not as religion as a topic to learn about, and to learn about religions of the world and
but not
different
for what?
religious views. That should be taught in schools, but religious instruction does not belong in schools. So the person that I'm talking about is Professor Lizette Rabi, and there's vehement disagreement with her in the South African, especially Afrikaans press. And for somebody to write a book like this in Afrikaans, yeah, it's not a common thing. And she's been lambasted in the press and in the comment section to such an extent that one of the most prominent dailies had the comment section closed on Thursday because there was just too much going on.
So fill me in with some details here. How big is the Afrikaans population, the Afrikaans speaking population? Is it just South Africa, or is there diaspora all over the world?
There is diaspora all over the world. There's a number of South Africans in New Zealand. There's a couple of million in Australia. And Afrikaans is a language that is, it's studied internationally. I know that there's one of the Russian universities has a an Afrikaans department. So just that's as far as the language is concerned. So Afrikaans is the third most spoken language in South Africa of the 11 official languages that we have. So numbers wise, Afrikaans is spoken by at least 15 to 20 million people. I'm thumb sucking a little bit, but it's definitely the third, definitely about in the region of 10 to 20 million people, somewhere thereabouts, of all racial backgrounds. So it's a significant number of people, and it's the South African or the Afrikaans press is sorry, the master of the house has just snuck into the room. Let me just hear. He's asking with trepidation whether we are broadcasting. Yes, love, we are. You should know. You should be watching us.
Yes, we need an audience.
So I've occupied his space. So pardon me for that. There we go. There's the interruption. But the boss has spoken. So
okay. Yes. Well, I respect your worship of higher powers.
Well, he is a higher power in that
yes.
But
yes.
he just walked out. He didn't even respond when I said he's the boss, because he knows that that's just not true. He doesn't respond to nonsense. So. Yes, but
so you've got like a large city's worth of speakers of Afrikaans dotted around, it seems.
Yes.
And so in South Africa, who would this lady's critics primarily be? Christians, Muslims,
Christians?
animists?
Pastafarians? No, I definitely say Christians, but mostly, and most of the Christians in South Africa, especially the Afrikaans-speaking ones, would be either there's quite a growth in the numbers of evangelical, charismatic evangelicals, and then but definitely a Protestant, all brands and varieties of Protestantism, and the more conservative Calvinist would be the most prominent, definitely, and they would be quite vocal and vehement critics. That I must say, this particular brand Sorry.
Very dogmatic, the Calvinists.
Yes, yes, yes. In all respects, definitely.
So,
Yeah.
but negligible Roman Catholics?
Yeah, in the Afrikaans community, I'd say negligible. English, maybe. Quite a large Anglican population as well.
Hmm.
In the English community, many Anglicans, but Roman Catholic, no, not exactly. We've
Yeah.
been healed of that affliction, but
Hmm.
we have
Or spared
uh,
it probably.
yeah,
You weren't
probably.
you weren't part of the Roman Empire, so it didn't affect you.
No, though we were part of the British Empire, therefore the Anglicans are
Yes.
quite
Yes.
prominent. Yeah.
By that time, the king had taken over the job of Pope for himself.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
by the time
But
the British invaded.
so my plan is to book Professor Robbie for whenever we have our next opening. I don't
Yeah.
know
Yeah.
and I'm sure she'll be keen to. She's also, as I said, a professor in journalism.
Yeah.
She
Mhm.
will be well known by those of our audience who watched our programs with Elsa B. Brits, the science journalist, and
Yes.
so forth. So that's what I'm hoping for,
Does
and
she
I'm hoping
only
that, yeah.
does she only do journalism in Afrikaans, or does she cross the languages?
I don't actually know. We'll have to ask her.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sorry, I
Mhm.
don't know. But John, on the topic of religion, uh, you said we'd be busking it tonight, and just before I came on, we just had supper, quite a late supper, and
Mhm.
Donnie and I were talking about the Bible and an interesting experience I had. I had my eyes tested today, and I had
Mhm.
such an interesting conversation with my optometrist. And
Mhm.
yeah, I don't know him extremely well, but it just so happened that he made mention of something, um, uh, and I mentioned that I was not religious, and he was quite shocked when I said that. Yeah, yeah, how come you believe in nothing? It was a very positive, it was a very nice conversation we had. I think I was there for almost an hour and a half.
Really?
Of which,
Well,
yes, he must have
you'd
had an
never get
open
that amount
morning.
of time with an optometrist in this country. You push through in 8 minutes.
No, well, I think about 8 minutes was spent on doing
Mm.
the actual job. I don't think he had a busy morning, so
Mm.
uh, I because well, I hope he didn't have a client waiting, because I would have been impatient if I were that client. But it was so
Mm.
interesting um, how our conversation went, and it just impressed on me again how pervasive religion is in
Yeah.
our society. I'm not sure if it's
Yes.
like that in the UK, John. Is it like that in the UK?
Not anymore. No. Except, in fact, I don't know whether I've got it in the sidebar here of all the things I can publish, but I had a geographical distribution of the religions or religiosity graph, not a graph, a map. And I don't know if I can find that quickly enough to bring it to this show, but it showed Scotland is, I mean, from memory, 51% atheist. Uh, the southwest is 50% atheist, near Cornwall, Devon, Somerset, those places. And then there's London, which is only 27% atheist. And that's because it's a metropolis, it's a world city, and it's got the greatest concentration of immigrants who have brought their religion with them.
Ah, that's so interesting. But
Mm.
you know what struck, so after I told Donnie about my conversation with my optometrist, we
Mhm.
started talking about the Bible, and maybe I don't know how much you know about the Bible itself, because I have educated myself on that topic. And what I found interesting in my conversation with my husband, who grew up like I did in the church and learning the Bible, and I was
being
struck by
being fed the cherry picked bits of the Bible.
well, the denomination that we belong to is actually not as good as at cherry picking as many others. We were actually fed a very solid biblical diet.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, but it struck me how even somebody like my husband, who knows the Bible quite well, knows so little about how it came about and about the information around the Bible. And maybe if you'd be interested, and if you think our audience would be interested, do you, for example, know which of the New Testament books, in terms of you have the 4 Gospels, and then you have the letters of Paul, and then you have a few other random letters, and then you have a book like Revelations. So do you have any idea which of those are chronologically, in terms of how they can be dated, are the oldest?
I don't know. I bet it's Revelations, though.
No, it's the letters of
Is
Paul.
it?
Yes,
It's what?
It's the letters of Paul.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay.
Revelation is actually one of the newest books in terms.
Is it?
One of the young. Yeah. Yes, it's one of the youngest ones, and what I think many Christians don't know this, because the Bible is not presented to Christians with any focus on that information.
No.
So my thesis was that if the Bible were to be presented chronologically, the New Testament, let me specify, if the New Testament were to be presented chronologically, with the letters of Paul first, now I don't remember the exact dating of the letters of Paul, and then the Gospel of Mark, and then either Matthew or Luke, and then the Gospel of John, and then the book of Revelations, then without making any textual changes or without mentioning translation or the effects of translation and what is lost and what is added in translation, one's experience of the text would be completely different if one were presented it in that order. And I would like to get some feedback, maybe from some of our previous guests, or like somebody like Ronald Cram, or maybe some Christians who are listening. I would like to hear what you think about this thesis, because my thesis is that the way in which the Bible is presented to us, just the order, already creates certain ideas in one's mind. And I find it interesting that none of that is ever mentioned to believers as a standard path for the course. When I was,
I don't find it in the slightest surprising, because the Bible it's not being used as a history book. It's being used as a propaganda document.
True. So I suppose in propaganda all is fair, and one is not about it's not about honest education. It's about creating certain impressions, and
controlling
that's all
people.
that matters.
Controlling people. It's about controlling people. That's what it's about. I mean, we talked about the British Empire when Britain ruled South Africa. Well, at that time, we had 2 weapons for colonizing. We had bigger and better guns than the opposition, but we also had the Bible. And it's cheap, it's much less expensive than bullets and cannonballs. And not only that, but when you give it out to people, they'll pay you for it. They'll raise money in, in their own taxation system. And
Well,
it is a powerful weapon of colonization.
well, in the case of South Africa, the Brits didn't really even need to bring the Bible because it was already here, brought by the Dutch
Mm,
colonists.
mm,
So,
mm.
yeah, the Bible wasn't actually, it was already here, very firmly.
No, well, we didn't have exclusivity to it.
Only the English one, though.
Yeah, I found that graphic image. Take a look. The UK is faithless.
Ooh.
Look, Scotland is 54% atheist or non-religious. Southwest is 51. Wales is 51%. East England, that's Suffolk, Norwich, and Essex, Cambridge,
Okay.
49%. The southeast, where I live, 49%. Yorkshire and the Humberside, where your brother lives or lived.
Well, he's
The
still
east,
there. They're heading to
yeah,
Melbourne sometime end of the year.
okay. Then it starts going really a bit below 50%. So the East Midlands, 46%. There's a lot of Muslims in the East Midlands. The Northeast, 44%. The Northwest, 43%. They're just sort of a bit. I've got some lovely friends up there, so I don't want to be rude, but they're not at the cutting edge of modernity, put it like that. and the West Midlands down to 40%. That's the Muslim immigrants again. Northern Ireland is the 31%, the last bastions of the Roman Catholic and Protestant divide. But London, look at that, 28% London. And that's because it's not because of natives who are clinging on to their religion. It's because of new arrivals who've brought it.
But I am actually surprised that there's so many people who are still religious in the UK. I mean, I would have wanted those numbers to be sort of in the 60s of non-religious.
Yeah, me too. We've only just in the most recent census, which was 2021, we've only just crept up to 50% non-belief.
Well, it's growing, is it? I mean,
Yeah.
non-belief. Okay.
Yeah, it is growing.
Okay.
If you go back 80 years, it was a lot higher than the theists were in the majority.
Okay.
Yeah.
So John, tell me about your progress for the event, the Hitchmas.
Yes, it's postponed, I'm afraid.
Oh dear.
Yes, we couldn't get it together. My advice to people is never try to organize anything, because it always something tries to throw you off. I mean, the last event that we staged in the Midlands, we bought some cameras to video this event, particularly because Richard Dawkins had asked us if he could use our event as a opportunity, a stage, if you like, to record an episode for his podcast, the Poetry of Reality. And so we agreed to that. We were honored that he should want to use our humble venue. It's a lovely venue. It's the Midlands Arts Centre in Edgbaston, Birmingham. But the couple of days before the event was scheduled, these newly purchased cameras were stolen out of the car that my friend and I were filling up with stuff to take with us on this journey, which by UK standards is fairly massive. It's about a 4-hour journey. And so we ended up with no cameras. And I was, the time came and I had to go on and open the show, not knowing what we were going to do about making a recording of it, when luckily the technician that we'd hired as part of the deal with the venue
Yes.
to do the audio, the microphone control panel and the lighting control panel, he produced a wonderful BBC quality level video camera and started videoing it on that for us. So we had one camera, which wasn't ideal, but considering we had none before, that was better than nothing. And so it all went off okay. Although the first presentation, which was Professor A.C. Grayling, we only captured the audio for because he was rushing around trying to plug the camera in. Anyway, you can see all these videos on the Atheism UK channel on YouTube, Atheism UK. I just released the last one, which was the interview between Richard Dawkins and Lawrence Krauss.
So, John, if you could have anybody as a guest on our show, who would you like to have?
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Of course, I will agree with you. That would be lovely. But I would love to have Richard Dawkins, because I haven't had the opportunity, unlike some other lucky people around to meet him. And it's just because he was obviously, without him knowing it, he was instrumental in my deconversion, because his was the very, very first book by an atheist author on the topic of atheism that I ever read. So
it's a powerful book. It's converted a lot of people. I keep meeting people who say, thanks to Richard Dawkins, this is, I'm an atheist now. Welcome, Esther. Thank you for watching us. We're busking it tonight because our guest hasn't. Well, there's reasons. Tersia was saying that the guest has kicked up a Ferrari, and she's probably in hiding, but might come on a next time I have a show.
Well,
so
Johnny,
let me finish the story of Hitchmas, because this was an idea I came up with, because, as you know, I cooperate with Richard Dawkins, Lawrence Krauss and Richard Dawkins, but Lawrence Krauss is like you're my co-host, he's my co-sponsor for events, okay? And so we were looking. It started out when I staged this event in London, and Lawrence thought it was so good he'd like to do more. Okay, so we did the one in September in the Midlands, where Esther came. Hello again, Esther. Nice to see you here. Jason is watching us too. Yes, he wants to smoke a doobie with NDT. Me too. And I don't smoke.
I don't smoke either. I'll have to take some edibles.
Yes. But
John, sorry, I have to interrupt you because I will forget, and I do think that our audience will find this interesting. Not that you telling us about the Hitchmas is not interesting, but talk about a doobie. So I don't smoke. I've never smoked in my life. I've never been able to. I just can't get the hang of it. But about a year ago, I decided so I struggle with insomnia. And I thought, well, I don't want to be taking sleeping pills. So let me try edibles. So I took cannabis in edible form.
Yeah.
And have you ever taken anything like that in any way?
No, I've led a very boring and undrugged life, unfortunately.
Well, I do partake in wine, and it doesn't take much to get me tipsy. But what I found about what it made me feel like has made me seriously question. Well, no, I understand why creative people would want to imbibe in the herb, because one's mind really goes off into strange places. But what I found was that I hated that feeling, because
Huh?
it's, and yes, I found it extremely uncomfortable, because it's not like being drunk. You know, when you're drunk, your head goes boo, 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 and you feel woozy. But being high, to me, was a very strange and unpleasant feeling, because it's like being drunk, but watching yourself being drunk while you're being drunk, and that's just, it's the weirdest feeling. So if there's anybody, the chap in the comments, or person in the comments who would like to smoke a doobie with Neil deGrasse Tyson, that is cannabis, am I right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Because I'm not a child of the hippies, but I found maybe that is something that we can do a future show on, where we just get an expert to talk about the effects. I'm serious.
Yeah, I'm not going to.
I would
I'm
like
not going to
I'd
volunteer
like
to
to pick
smoke
some.
one on camera, I'm afraid.
No, I wouldn't partake in it ever again. I decided after, so I took it twice, and after the last time, I decided I won't be doing it again. Number one, it didn't make me sleep, but it was really, it's not for me. So
Jason's an expert. I've got a son who indulges in cannabis. In fact,
why would anybody indulge in it?
it's
Do
his,
they?
it's his it's his drug of choice. You know, I like a drink, not to excessive amounts, but and this stuff I'm drinking tonight is alcohol free. So I'm sounding rather pure and virtuous, aren't I? It's not true. I must have lots of vices.
Well, it's not it's not for any moral reason that I don't indulge
No.
in drugs. It's just that I don't like the way it makes me feel, because I don't feel as if I don't feel sharp when I'm on it. I don't know. Maybe I'm never sharp. Me saying I don't feel sharp when I'm high implies that I feel sharp normally, which might be a misconception. But
Not necessarily. Let's look at it the other way. You feel blunted.
yes, more so than usual. But so we've had. I've asked you who would you like to have, and you say Neil deGrasse Tyson. Do you know who I like to have? I would like to have Robert Sapolsky.
Would you? Oh, I'd argue a lot with him, because he's just brought out this book on determinism, and I disagree with it.
Have you read it?
No. I've read reviews of it and criticisms of it, critiques of it, but I haven't read it. Although I have watched most of a chat that he had with Lawrence recently, following the publication of the book, and I've looked at Sapolsky's lectures, not particularly on determinism. He's a frighteningly good lecturer, and I worry about people like that, because I think they might be able to convince anybody of anything.
But are you still unconvinced even after watching the conversation with Lawrence? Because I mean, I watched that too. I was absolutely engrossed by it, and well, I was leaning towards determinism even before being introduced to Robert Sapolsky's views. It just makes sense to me that and determinism, not in the Calvinist sense, obviously, because that would imply that there was some outside force. But I think I don't think we have free will. I think everything is determined by 1,000,005 things that we have absolutely no control over.
Well, you see, listen, if you'd wanted me to talk about determinism, I might have prepared something. But off the top of my head, yesterday we have a takeout on on Friday evenings, and
Okay.
I go out and collect it. You see, I'm the driver, so I
I was
ask
with you
everybody.
once. We went. I was with
Yeah,
you when we
yeah,
went to have fish
that's
and
right.
chips.
Yes, that's right. Yes, we don't often have fish and chips. We mostly go for the more exotic food. We did that because you were with us and you wanted to taste British fish and chips. there's
Yes,
there's still a market. There's
it
still
was
a market for it.
a Korean couple who owned the shop.
Yes, yes, that's right. Yeah, there's still a market for it. But to give you some idea, in East Preston, oh, mustn't say where I live. Where I live, I'll delete that bit. There's one fish and chip shop and 4 curry houses. So that gives you some idea. And three counting 3 Chinese emporiums. So, but can we get back to either determinism or hitchmasters? At the moment, we're rabbit holing. Okay.
You choose.
So which would you like me to finish first?
Determinism.
I thought you'd say that. Yeah. So here's my.
Ah, you see, it's been determined.
There you go. So what I was saying is, last night, curry night, or takeout night, they asked me what I wanted to have, and I said I fancy a kebab. Okay, so
Okay.
I got their orders. They wanted I can't remember now, McDonald's, chicken nuggets, pizza, various things. And I tour around all the places and collect up this food. Takes me about an hour. Really, I should make use of the delivery services. It'd be easier. But I like
Oh
the
well,
outing.
or just get out of the
Yeah,
house a little bit. That's good too.
exactly. Yeah. So I set off to get a kebab for me and all these other things for the other people in the household. And do you know what happened? I ended up getting a curry, a biryani for me. So I changed my mind. I've got free will. I can do that.
The fact that you can change your mind doesn't mean that you have free will. It just means that it was determined that you would change your mind.
But in that case, why wasn't it determined that I could change my mind back again?
Well,
You-
because it wasn't determined.
it
It was
sounds awfully
determined that you'd
circular
end up
to me.
changing your mind.
Well, here's the thing, though. If you speak to people like Sapolsky, who's keen on determinism, they always refer to the past. They always say, look back at this particular incident where you made that particular decision and try to imagine whether you could have done differently, right? And then they go through all sorts of reasons why you couldn't have, because that was the only instant when the particles of the universe were in that particular alignment, and it'll never happen again. So that's the argument, it seems to me, for determinism. But the point is that the past, it's silly. It's a silly argument to look at whether you could have done something differently back then, because the past is concrete. It's happened. It's unalterable. What we should be doing is looking forward and saying, here's the menu. It's curry, kebab, Chinese, chicken nuggets, and pizza. You've got freedom to choose. And therefore, nothing's determined, or that sort of thing, at that level. Now, I mean, a lot is determined, but that doesn't take away our free will for these trivial things.
Okay, is there a difference between being able to choose and so between option A and option B and being having one's acting in the world determined? So maybe okay, so I haven't prepared either, so let's just put this out there.
So maybe we talk
Maybe,
about history then.
let me grow this thought. Maybe it's useful to distinguish between being able at a mundane level to make choices between vanilla ice cream or chocolate ice cream or a kebab or a curry. So in the world we live in, there are certain things that, mostly mundane things, that we can choose. But at the level of our actions and our behavior in the world, we are extremely limited as to what we can choose in terms of the things that really matter. So, for example, I don't think we can choose whether to get angry at things, or I don't think we can choose how angry we get. I don't think we can choose. Well, choose is not the right word. I don't think we have a choice in what we are able to learn and how we are able to learn, and in the important things regarding our behavior and our actions in the world. I don't think we have choices. I think we have choice in certain mundane regards to things like curry or kebab, but I don't think we have free will in terms of how we act in the world. How's that?
Well, did Hitler choose to invade Europe or not?
Well, in terms of what to do and what to order his men to do, he obviously, I don't think he chose that. I think it was determined by everything that happened to him and in the world before he invaded Europe to invade Europe. I don't think he chose it. Yeah, I don't think he chose it. I think it was determined.
On the subject of religion, did you say, can we choose our religion? Well, I think we can choose to leave our religion. Look who I'm speaking to.
I didn't choose it. It was determined. It was determined that with the type of brain profile I was born, because of how I grew up, because of who my mom and dad are, because of the denomination that I was born into, because I was born when I was born, it was determined that I would grow out of my religion. I don't think I chose it.
Well,
I really don't think I did.
Would you argue with Muhammad Ali?
Depends. Not in the boxing ring, no. Well, I would argue with him. I wouldn't fight with him. No, I wouldn't box against him. I would fight. I would definitely argue with him. Absolutely.
Well, you're a braver woman than I am in that case.
John, I'm your co-host. I have to be braver than you are. It's been determined.
So let's go back to Hitchmas.
Is that an easy topic, huh?
Yes, I don't think we're going to solve anything on determinism tonight.
We can try.
Yeah, thank you for your contributions, Jason. We love them, especially all these bits about trees and higher levels and absolutism. You're right, of course. There's nothing is absolute in the 100% sense. Anyway, Hitchmas.
Hitchmas.
I came up with this idea and I floated it to Lawrence that the next event shouldn't be called Changing Minds in Changing Times, because we've done a couple of them, but it should be called Hitchmas, because the gap, the June to September, the next month that we were aiming for was December. So that's the month that 15th of December was when Christopher Hitchens died 12 years ago. Doesn't seem like 12 years, does it? But I spent 2 or 3 weeks trying to get a venue. You wouldn't believe how difficult it is. And I eventually succeeded to get a nice little theatre in Brighton, seats 270. It's fully modernized. It's got all the desks and screens and everything that you could wish for. But then, of course, the next thing I have to do is get some attractions, some celebrities to draw an audience. Lawrence was on board. AC Grayling was on board, although he couldn't actually attend. He was going to be on the other end of a video chat for us. But really, we wanted Richard Dawkins or Stephen Fry to be the top of the bill. And it looked as though we were going to get one or other of them, maybe both, for a while. But Stephen's been recovering from some broken bones. I don't know the story behind this, but he had an accident of some sort and he's been out of action. And then what you have in this situation, I don't know whether you've met this with pupils in a classroom, but there's a domino effect. Everybody looks at everybody else and says, are you going? Yeah, if you go, I'll go. No, that's free will. Many years ago, I used to organize trips for school children. I used to take about 100, not on my own, I had a couple of other members of staff, 100 year 9s to London. And we'd either go to the museum, the Natural History Museum, or the zoo. And so I used to organize these things. I get a letter printed on the old-fashioned. Do you remember those copying machines that smelt of alcohol? Yeah,
I remember those. My mom, when I was in primary school, my mom was a teacher, and they still used. And I spent many hours waiting for her to make copies on those machines. Yes, I know exactly. Yeah. They have like blue. They're called wax.
Yes.
Wax paper.
Yes, that's right. Yes.
Yeah.
So I'd get one of the secretaries to type up a letter to parents and get it Roneo'd off on one of these machines, because there were two sorts. There was Banda machines that you had to wind the handle. Then we got electric, and Roneo did the winding for you. Anyway, I get the letter printed and I bounce into my laboratory and I'd say to a class of year 9, we're going to the zoo. And I've got all the letters for your parents. And they all looked at each other and they said, are you going? Because there's this peer pressure thing. And it's a bit like that, even with celebrities. So for a while, it looked as though we were going to get Stephen Fry. But then it transpired that he wasn't available on the day. And at that point, we lost Richard Dawkins, who hadn't committed as well. So I've postponed it. It's going to happen in 2024, if we live long enough. Okay.
If we live long enough, if there's no asteroid or something like that. Well, I do hope it happens. And then just to get back to Robert Sapolsky, I was it's been determined. I was thinking a lot about what you said, that he's such a good lecturer that you're afraid that he can convince anybody of anything. Because as I was watching quite a number of interviews, I also watched his interview with Michael Shermer. I thoroughly enjoyed all of it. That's, by the way, that's another person I'd like to have on.
I know Shermer is good, isn't he? Yes.
Yes.
There's a tendency to think he's a cyclist, but there's a lot more to him than his early career as a competitive cyclist. He's really good.
I don't know him as a competitive cyclist. I only know him as a skeptic and a presenter. Do you think do you have contact with him? Do you think we could get him as a do you think your reach of influence?
I did have an exchange with him years ago when I was with Atheist Alliance International. I think he was up to come onto a show then. Yeah, he should be okay, and we should get him.
I think you should make a note of that, John, for next year. I think. Okay, so
we might also get Dan Dennett, because I've had correspondence with him too.
That would be really nice. So let's finish out. So I'll try Robert Sapolsky again.
Yes.
I have tried him before, so I'm sure he'll. You try him, I'll try him as well, and then we get Michael Shermer and we get Dan Dennett. I love that.
So, if we could get Dan Dennett, that would be because I will be determined to get a compatibilist. See what I did there? See what I did
Go
there?
for it. I see what you did there. And of course, I don't know if Stephen Fry would come on a show like ours, but that would be amazing. I'd love to have
Yeah, Jason, go for it. Yeah.
Oh,
Mm,
fantastic. Yes, please do.
mm.
Then
And I still want to have
what
a
was
chat with you, Jason, because I've got some. I want to get into your brain cell and get your advice on a couple of things. Because before we run out of time, I want to update Tersia and whoever watches this on the state of play with Meet Your Heroes.
what's that?
There you go. You see. Well, I had a free thought. I had a I had an idea. And
A
my idea
dangerous pastime, you know.
and my idea was to get these celebrities that I've been working with, who at the end of the show we have a book signing opportunity. So we get Waterstones, the local, not local, the national book chain, to provide a table covered with books by the authors who are at the show, and then a queue of the people who attend the show forms, and they all sign the books, and a good time is had by everyone. Waterstones gets book sales, the authors get to meet their fans, the fans get to meet their authors, so on and so forth. So I thought, let's do this in a hybrid way. So we're at a show, but the author's at home on a camera. And they have a thing called a light box. And Jason knows about this because he's supplied me with some, to show their hand doing a signing. Okay.
Okay.
So it's a box with a light in it and a hole in the roof for the phone to look down. So then it's a case of having an author on screen and his hand in a box on the screen, writing his signature and whatever dedication the purchaser of the book wants. So, cutting this long story short, we did it on Thursday. We had two authors, because what I've done is I've registered Meet Your Heroes as a registered company. So it's Meet Your Heroes Limited in the UK. And I've got meetyourheroes.co.uk domain. And we're working on a website. And I've got all sorts of other things. I've got a bank account. I've got an account with the National Book Distributor. And I've got this. Look at this. No, you're not looking. Okay. Maybe you're frozen.
Yes, I am.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Oh, it's a little banking thing. You can take payments.
Yeah, it's a point of sale card machine. So you can swipe the strip that way, or you can put the tip in that way, and so you can take payments. So on Thursday we sold some books that I've now got in. I've got a stock of books. So we sold some books, and Lawrence signed some, and I see my green screen is collapsing, and yeah, I have to do something about that. And there's always something, isn't there? And we sold some books by Bill Flavel, my friend, who's written a child's book on truth or false. You'd love that. It's for your kids at school. Let me just do my green screen.
On camera?
Yes.
This is a family show, John.
There you go. Fixed. Right. So anyway, that worked. We actually had people in their own homes, not even in a meeting anywhere, and we sold them some books, and they got signed, and I now have to print them and stick them in the books and post them off. It's going to work.
That is brilliant. I'm so impressed. Well, on the topic of money and organizations, I want to ask your permission to schedule sometime somewhere. I know we're not into making money on this show, but money does make the world go around. And I'm busy with my own side project, which I have mentioned, but things are really rolling. We are in the process of registering a company as well. It's a non-profit company, and the English name will be Cross Free. In Afrikaans, it's kruisvrij, and I don't know if you can see. So I'm working on a little brooch.
Mm-hmm.
So you've
Right.
got
So it's somebody doing this.
Well, it's actually the humanist, the happy human.
All right, yeah. What's that protuberance sticking out from the groin area?
No, there's no protuberance. It's a K. It's the letter K for.
That's a
Kruis,
protuberance.
Right?
That's
okay,
in
yes,
my mind. In my mind, that is a protuberance.
Okay, well, it's actually the happy human. I'll send you with a K.
Yeah.
For a cross in Afrikaans is a kruis, and so there's the K. I don't know if you could. That's the K. So that's the little mouth, the beak of the K, and then it's the leg of the K that looks like protuberance to you. And so we're in the process of registering Kruisvrij as a non-profit company. Isak Spangenberg, who was our guest a couple of weeks ago, and an advocate friend of mine and myself, we are the directors, and we plan to launch this company to combat the influence of religion in South African society, because we have a secular constitution. Although we don't have the separation between church and state that the United States Constitution advocates for, but we do have a very liberal secular constitution that is not properly enforced, because at the entrance of just about every town on public land, often paid for by ratepayers without them knowing it, we suspect, there are crosses that have lights all over them and proclamations like "this town for Jesus" and things like that. And we want to actually launch litigation to prohibit this. And so I was hoping that sometime early next year we could do a little fundraiser for the work that Kruisvrij plans to do. Sorry, that was my cat. Whoa, what? No, there's. Sorry about that, people.
That's him up there. He's got it in for you.
No, it's actually the neighbors have a ginger cat, and he comes into the house and he harasses my cats. And poor Picasso, who's a young lady now, she's been sterilized, but she was just frightened. She was just sitting outside, and I think it's the ginger tomcat who scared both of us. So it's nothing serious, just a ginger cat. But yes, so that's what I'm busy with on the sideline. It's all been
well, that's more power to your elbow, because that's a very good cause to progress.
Yeah, well, that's and we're hoping that we can launch an organization that's large enough eventually, like something akin to the Freedom from Religion Foundation that Dan Barker and Annie Laurie Gaylor heads. That I can actually be cats. Cats have choice. Yes, they absolutely do. Cats.
They do. Yes.
Cats.
They're the bosses. Yes.
They're the bosses. They absolutely. Absolutely.
So,
John,
they want the bad news, because we've got a few seconds to count down now.
I know. I want to say I actually enjoyed this. We should do this every once in a while. Just the two of us chatting about goings on. Let's see how many views we get.
Well, 2 so far. But the other day when we had Sasha on, do you remember Sasha?
Yes, I remember him quite well.
That one's got 17K. No, I think 1.7K. I think that it's a big number for us. Yes. Yes. Okay, well, there you go. Thank you very much. And thank you, viewers. And that was it. Tersia and I are now going to leave you. So this is not our outro, but it's an old intro that I'm going to use as our outro. Will I see you tomorrow for views on the news? I hope so.
I'll talk to you about that.
Oh, okay then. Right.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye. So, Jason says he'd like to help you with your fundraising.
Oh,
There you
thank
go.
you so much.
Mm.